Hello everyone, welcome to the Tableau tutorials. I'm a trainer of Uplatz and today we are going to learn about data refresh and blending. We access many data sources when we work on Tableau. We connect to the many data sources and we prepare dashboards. We do analysis on many data sources. But how we are connecting those data sources is very important. Whether we are connecting those databases or data source, any kind of data source. It may be a Excel file or text file or any other servers. They may be a Microsoft SQL server or MySQL or Oracle, any other databases. Whether we are connecting in live mode or in extract mode, that is very important here. When we connect our Tableau desktop with any of the data sources in live mode, we have to update our data. And when we take extract of any of the data source, we have to update our data. The question is how we are going to update the data. In our day-to-day life, the business users will be having many transactions in their databases. Suppose if we are created a dashboard for the business user who are seeing their dashboards frequently on day-to-day basis, whatever the transaction happens in the backend, that is in the database, it has to be updated on the dashboard also. So that is the reason why we are going to update our data sources, whether we may connect to the data sources in live mode or in extract mode. We are going to update the data source by using the concept called refresh, which we are going to learn in this session. Whereas in the case of multiple data sources, when we are dealing with the multiple data sources for preparing the analysis, that means we have to combine multiple data sources and we have to prepare analysis. And based on that analysis, we are going to develop the dashboard. For combining these multiple data sources, we are using a concept called data blending. Let's see how we are going to refresh the data source in the Tableau desktop environment. When data source has been modified, we have to select the menu, that is a data menu. In the data menu, we have to select refresh. Then automatically the data source will be refreshed. That means in the changes, whatever happened in the data source will be reflected in the Tableau desktop environment. Let's see how we are performing refresh in Tableau desktop environment. First, we have to select the data source, on which data source we want to work on. In the start screen, we can see the connect pane where we have access to the various data sources. On the right hand side, as we know, it is discover pane where we can find the learning videos for the beginners. And the middle of the screen, we can see the saved workbooks. So now we are going to connect to the data source, that is a Microsoft Excel data source. For that, I have to go to the connect pane. In the connect pane, I have to click on Microsoft Excel. Yes, here I'm going to select one sheet, one Microsoft Excel sheet. So here I'm selecting target sheet. Now Tableau desktop is trying to connect with the Excel sheet target, that is Excel file target, which is present in my local drive. Yes, now we successfully connected to the target file. And in the target file, we are having only a one sheet. It's a Microsoft Excel file and it is having only a one sheet. And in this sheet, we are having the columns called region, target sales, target profit. These are the columns present here. And we connected this data source by using the connection live. So what we are going to do is, now we are going to add one more field to this data source, and then we will see whether that changes will be reflected in the Tableau desktop environment or not. That means here I'm going to add a new field. I'm going to add a new field in the Excel file, that is target. Yeah, now the sheet target is open. I located this file and I opened the file target, and I will add one more row. I will add one more row, that is southeast, and I will add the target sales value as 30,000 and target profit value as 60,000. So now I will save this file. Now I save this file. Let's see whether the changes happened in the Tableau desktop or not. No, northeast row is not added in the Tableau desktop environment. That means whatever the changes we are making in the data source, it will not reflected in the Tableau desktop environment directly. For that, we have to refresh our data source in the Tableau desktop environment. Then only the changes will be reflected. Yes, sorry, it's not northeast, it is southeast. Now we can see the new row, that is southeast, present in the data source. In the data source page, we can see the southeast row is added, that is a new row is added in the file, that is a target sheet file. So here we have to consider the three primary connections we have to consider here. As we know, we are going to use the connection methods live and extract. Okay, and here we are using live connection, where we are going to query the database, and then we are going to display the result set once the database returns the result to the Tableau. And here the live connection, in live connection also we have to update our database. We have to update our Tableau workbooks or the reports or dashboards. And in the case of extract also we have to refresh. And here one more thing is there, that is published data source. Even we can publish the data source what we are using in Tableau onto the Tableau servers, and we can access that data source whenever it is required or whenever it is necessary. We can connect to that data source and we can use that data source for the analysis. Now we can see that what are the changes happened in the underlying data. Suppose if the data source are corrected, or if any of the column present in the data source are added with the new value or the new row is added in the data source, then it will be reflected in the Tableau desktop environment only when we click on refresh. Now we will take the extract. Now we will take the extract of this file. We are going to use the extract mode. Yeah. For taking the extract, we have to consider the connection method or the type called as extract. And then we have to save this extract in the drive, that is in the location where we want to save it. That means how can we save this extract? For that, in the below, we have to click on sheet. Once we click on sheet, it will automatically ask where you want to save your Tableau extract. And here we have to observe this extract is nothing but a Tableau extract file, and it will be saved in the .hyper format. In earlier versions, it was using .tde format, that is Tableau data extract format. So now I'm going to save the extract. Now the extract is saved. And then again, if we want to refresh the extract what we have created, then again we have to configure the extract. That means once we have created the extract, that extract will be refreshed again. But the question is why we have to create extraction of the data source, and the data source may be anything, maybe an Excel file or the databases. But extract is most of the time it is used in the databases where the huge volume of data is stored in the database, and when we try to fetch the data from the database in the live mode, then the speed of the data is slow. That is the reason why we are taking the extract of the database. But after taking the extract of the database, we have to refresh that database. Depends upon our requirement, depends upon our need, we have to refresh that database. And again, we have to consider here two things, like how we are going to refresh the extract. So here my extract is saved. And this is the target sheet. So now I will add one more field, that is I will add one more region, Northeast. And here I'm setting the target sales as 55,000 and target profit as 45,000. So now we have to see in the data source level what changes has been taken place. Yeah, here we can see the Southeast new column that is added previously, but now we have added one more column called as one more row called as Northeast. But now that Northeast column is not present in our data source page, that is in the grid we cannot see that row. And here what we have to do, that means whatever the changes we have made in the data source target sheet, same changes we want to see in the extract what we have created. So now it is time to refresh our extract. And when we have taken the extract, that date and time will be present here. We can see here clearly. When we have taken the extract, that is we have taken the extract on 10/10 and 2020 at 4 o'clock 4 minutes we have taken the extract. And now if I click on refresh, so now it will refresh and it will make some changes to our data source. Yeah, so now I refreshed my extract which I saved in the disk drive D. It is present in the folder docs where my refresh is, where my extract is saved. And now I clicked on refresh button here in the corner, and it automatically refresh the extract, and it will take the data, it will replaces the data, it will replace the original data present in the extract with the data present in the data source. This we have to understand here. This is very important. So by default, when we create extracts, fully extract will be performed. Fully extract operation will be performed by default. Fully fully refresh means here it will replace the original data. It will replaces the data present in the extract with the original data present in the data source. Original data present in the data source will be replaced by the data present in the extract. That is called as a fully refresh. And one more important operation we have to understand here is incremental refresh. What is meant by incremental refresh? Whatever the refresh we have performed here, it is fully incremental, fully extract operation. And now that is full extract refresh we have performed. And now we have to perform incremental extract refresh. What exactly it is incremental extract refresh? And yeah, now we are working on a small data set. It is fine. We can perform fully extract refresh. But what about big data? What about the databases which contains huge volume of data where we cannot perform fully extract refresh because entire extract data will be replaced by the original data present in the data source, and it is tedious and time consuming, and it is it will charge more cost. To avoid these problems, we are going for the incremental refresh. That is incremental extract refresh we are going. What exactly it is incremental extract refresh? Here what we are doing is, for example, on a day-to-day sales, suppose if I want to add today's sales to my extract, that is today's sales transaction record to my extract, then I have to select the records which are entered in the database. That is today's records I have to enter, or else if I want to add today's transactional record onto my database, then I have to select these 2 days records. So the question is how we are going to identify those newly added transactional records in my database. For that, we have to select the field. We have to select the field on which we want to perform incremental refresh operation. Like some of the easy methods we can say is we can identify the newly added records in the database by identifying the dates. When previously we have refreshed our extracts and what are the new records has been added to our database that we can identify. Yes, here we can see that means in the data, I will repeat once again. In the data, we have to go to the data source, that is sheet target 1, and here we have to click on extract data. Once the extract data window is popped up on the screen, here we have to set up the incremental refresh. We have to select incremental refresh and then identify new rows using the column with reference to which column we want to refresh our extract, so that newly added records in the database will be copied from the database to the extract what we have created, that is previously added records. So here we have to configure this window to incremental refresh and then we have to click on OK. Once we click on OK, the incremental refresh operation will be performed. And suppose we perform the refresh operations many times, and we may perform refresh operations on extracts, and there may be a more than one extract or maybe a single extract. But if you want to see the history of the extracts, like what are the extracts we have created, when those extracts are refreshed, and how many number of rows has been added to the extract. To see all this information, we have to go to extract history where we can find all this information. For that, we have to click on data menu, and then we have to go to the data source on which we are working. Here we have to click on extract. We have to go to extract and then history. Yeah, here in the extract history window, we can clearly see the time duration. What is the time time duration when the full refresh method has been performed and how many number of rows were updated. It is 7 rows. And what is the data source name? That is target sheet. Target sheet is the data source and its sheet 1 is has been updated and it is having only one update. And even we can remove the information present in the extract history if we don't want it by clicking on clear history. So now I will close this. Yeah. Yeah. As we know, we can toggle between the start screen as well as on the Tableau desktop screen. That is on the sheet to start screen, we can toggle by clicking on this icon which is present here. That is a Tableau icon. And if we want to go back to the data source page, then we can click on this icon, data source page. Yeah, here we go to data and then I will click on close data. So now the data source has been closed. Now we are not connected with any of the data source. Now again, if I want to connect to the data source means again we have to go to the start screen. So now we will see what is blending and why we have to go for blending and how we are performing blending operation in Tableau desktop environment. Yeah, as we know, it's a method of method for combining the data from the multiple sources, and here it queries each data source independently. That is, blending will queries each data source independently. Let's perform the blending operation. For performing blending operation, minimum two data sources must be there, and the first data source is called as primary and the second data source is called as secondary. And even we can configure as per our wish, like we can configure like primary and then secondary data sources with respect to the requirement. Now I'm going to the start screen. I will click on Microsoft Excel. I'm going to select the first data source, sample superstores data. Let's drag the sheets present in the samples global store superstore data onto the canvas. Let's join these sheets, that is orders, returns, people, by using the common elements with the help of inner join. Now returns, yeah. So now we used first data source, that is sample global sample superstore data. We have connected with the sample superstore data. Now I'm clicking on the sheet. So now if I want to add another data source, then we have to go to data menu, and then here in the data menu we have to click on new data source. Again, I'm going to select one more Excel file, that is target. Yeah, now sheet target is selected. That means now we are connected with the target sheet. Yeah, now we are having two data sources in our desktop environment, sample superstore data and the target sheet. So the data source which we are going to select will become the first data source, that is a primary data source, and the next one will become secondary data source. We can toggle between the two data sources. Yeah, these are the dimensions and columns present in the sample superstore data, and these are the dimensions and measures, that is region, measure names, and when it comes to measures, target profit, target sales, these are the measures present in the target sheet data source. Let's try to create some visualization with the help of these two data sources, and we will deep dive into the concept of data blending. Yeah, I've selected region, that is I just dragged and dropped region onto the column shelf. Now we can see what are the regions present here. That is from sample superstore dataset, I'm selecting the dimension called region. Here it contains the data points central, east, south, and then west. Now I will drag the target profit onto the row shelf. That is, I dragged target profit onto the row shelf. And now I will enable the label. Yeah. And I will arrange it. That means I'm going to sort it. I'm going to sort the region by ascending. That is, sort region ascending by target profit. Yeah, here we can see the regions and their target profit. What is the target profit they are having? So when we clearly observe here, what happened when I was drawing the visualization is, first I selected sample superstore dataset, which is considered as the primary data source, from where I picked dimension region, and then from the second data source, that is sheet 1, the target sheet, I used profit profit as profit measure, and I dragged and drop it on the row shelf. So now we can see the profit target. What is the profit target with respect to the regions? So here we have to understand some of the important points regarding the data blending. Here, primary data source. We can easily distinguish the primary data source by identifying the cylinder which is having the blue check is called as a primary data source, and the secondary data source which is having the orange check, it is called as a secondary data source. Primary will be indicated by the blue check and the secondary will be indicated by the orange check, and on the left hand side of the data plane we can see the orange bar. That is, orange bar indicates both the data sources are linked with the help of a linking field region, and here region is used as linking field. This link field has to be enabled, then only we can connect the data between the two data sources. Primary and the secondary data sources will be connected with the help of a linking field, and here we are using the linking field called as a region. Suppose if I click on this linking region, what happens? We'll see. See, now I clicked on the region, that is, I disabled linking field. Now we will see the warning on the screen, that is, fields cannot be used from the sheet 1 data source because there is no relationship to the primary data source. In the data window, switch to the sheet 1 data source and add at least one link icon to the blend these data sources. So in order to establish a relationship between primary data source and secondary data source, there must be at least one linking field. By default, Tableau automatically establishes a linking field when we perform blend operation. That is, when we select primary and the secondary data sources. Not only selecting the primary and the secondary data sources, when we try to drag the any field from the first data source onto the column or row shelf, then it will be considered as the primary data source. And when we drag and drop any field from the secondary data source, then it will be considered as the secondary data source. And Tableau automatically establishes the relationship between the primary and the secondary data source with the help of a linking field, and that linking field will be present in both the data sources, that is in primary and the secondary data sources it will be present. So now we are getting the wrong values, we can see. So now I disabled linking field, and for central, south, east and west, for all the regions it is showing the equal profit targets, which is wrong. So what I have to do is, if it is not enabled, linking field is not enabled, we have to enable this linking field. Yeah, now we are having the correct values. Yeah, whatever values are present in our original data set, same values are present in our Tableau worksheet also. Same values are present where we are trying to visualize with the help of a bar chart. And suppose if the link fields are not present, or if the here it is very straightforward that we are having region column in both the data source, primary as well as secondary data source. In some scenarios, they will use different names, but their value will be similar. In that case, we have to edit our relationship. That means we have to go to data and then we have to click on edit relationships. Here we have to select which one, which data source we want to make it as a primary data source and which data source we want to configure as the secondary data source, and we have to add. That means if it is not added, if the linking field are not established, that is relationship is not established between the data sources, then we have to click on the radio button custom. Here it is understood that we are already using the link field. Region is automatically connected, that is relationship is automatically established. But whereas in the case of some scenarios, it will be not established automatically, and at that time we have to create the custom linking fields where we have to select the columns which are identical in both the sources, both the data sources, and we have to click on OK. Even we can add more than one linking field also by clicking on add. If we click on add, we can add one more linking field, and then we have to click on OK. So by editing the relationship, we can create the custom linking fields for primary and the secondary data sources. After creating that data sources, we have to enable those linking fields in order to see the changes in our view or to get the proper values when we blend, when we connect multiple data sources. Yeah, and when we perform blend operation, we have to understand that it will, by default, it will work like a left join. Why means whatever the data present in the primary data source will be matched with the secondary data source. With respect to that, it will display the results on the sheet. That is why it works like a left join. And one more example I will tell you. Suppose in the primary data source we are having 3 months data, that is January, February, March data, and in the secondary data source we are having 12 months data. But when we perform blend between these two data sources, it will display only the 3 months data because the matching records from the primary data source will be taken. That's why it works like a left join. And these are some of the important points we have to remember when it comes to a data blending. This is a small demonstration of data blending where we can understand how the concept of data blending works in the Tableau. With this, I would like to conclude my session by saying that in this session we have learned how to update our data when we are working in Tableau desktop environment, and then how to perform blend operation between the multiple data sources, whether we connect our data source in live mode or in extract mode, but we have to update our data, and we have seen what are the various steps involved in live connection as well as in extract connection to update the data. And updating the data in Tableau, what it is called as refresh. We are going to refresh our data, and how to create extract that we have seen, and how to refresh this extract, and what are the various methods like full extract refresh and then incremental extract refresh we have seen, and what are the differences between fully extract refresh and then incremental extract refresh we have seen. And we have also seen how it works and how to configure the window of the incremental refresh and why we are using. Also, and we have seen the blending operation, how we are performing the blending operation, and what are the major steps to be considered while blending the operations, and what are the primary data sources and secondary data sources, and how we are going to identify the primary data sources and the secondary data sources. Like primary data source will be identified with the blue check and secondary data source will be identified by the orange check. And in the data pane, we can see the orange sidebar, which indicates that we are performing the blend operation. And for performing the blend operation, linking field is very important and it is very crucial. Tableau automatically identifies the linking field and it establishes the relationship between a primary data source and the secondary data source. If it is not established, then we have to go to the data menu and we have to edit our relationships. There we have to add the custom linking fields for performing the blend operation, and then we have to enable our linking field. This is very important. By this, I would like to conclude my session. Thank you, folks.